Hey everybody, what's going on? We're here with a timeless reading. Welcome. The first two cards that we have out are Six of Swords and the Hierophant and Seven of Cups. Moving in the direction of the Hierophant, there can be some type of seeking that's happening. It can be seeking advice, seeking wise counsel. There can be somewhere where you're going, where there's going to be learning that's happening, where there's going to be teaching that's happening. As this Six of Swords is moving towards the Hierophant, it feels like a Hierophant themed thing that's going to be occurring. But then having the Seven of Cups, there can be something that's unclear. Like you have some notions regarding the direction that you're going in, but then other things that are still unknown. When we move towards this can also mean that you have to figure out how you feel about something, because when the Hierophant comes up, it can be something that we can possibly choose to give authority to within our lives. And having that Seven of Cups there, maybe this is something that you don't automatically feel like you want to do that with. This can be something where you want to figure out, well, like what you really believe in, what really resonates with you. And when we have the Seven of Cups there, it can be the process of figuring that out. Like instead of the Hierophant showing up and just saying, I'm the authority, listen to me, there can be more of a questioning about that. Really about like what you believe in and what you give authority to ultimately. And if this is that. I even feel like something presenting itself to you and you having to figure out whether that's something that you see as being, I don't know, like valid, relevant within your life, as that being something that is a source of benefit for you. A guide for you. It can also be trying to make sense of what you believe in. And maybe even something going on with mixed messages. So you move towards the Hierophant. Beliefs coming into question, trying to make sense of how you feel, enough to then mobilize that. This feels like out of the confusion, a message emerges, but it's something that takes some time to emerge because of having to process through the Seven of Cups. A message does emerge, but you need to give it time to emerge, which definitely makes sense because we're ending this part of the spread with Hermit and Temperance. So having these two cards here, this is about taking your time reflecting on something, taking your time figuring out. This can be finding answers, finding what you believe in, what's true to you, what you're giving power to, what you're giving authority to. Having the Hierophant show up too can be something like actually palpable within your life that can be of guidance for you. But you may have to figure out how to allow that to be. Like, what is the message of guidance within what you're receiving? And this can be something that takes some time to look at, like as it feels like something where more and more messages come out of this, but you don't really know what's going to come out of it, and you sort of have to allow this process to take place where it just feels like rain coming out of a cloud, like what the Hierophant being the cloud and the Seven of Cups being the cloud, and then having the Knight of Cups, it feels like those are the raindrops, like those are the things that are going to be sort of like more in a more condensed form that come out, so we can understand something clearly in a more tangible way as well, because it's more condensed, because it's more crystallized even. And when we have the Hermit and we have Temperance, this is about taking the time to really reflect on this and to listen and to tune in. Because this feels more like something is speaking to you and you needing to really tune in and to listen to it rather than to try to force it, to try to figure it out before it's time. Especially too because when we have Taurus with the Hierophant, Taurus is a slow moving energy. Taurus moves slowly. Taurus moves in the time that it wants to move. And so there can be part of this process needs to be respected, needs to be allowed as far as the time that it's going to take for this to all come out and for it to all make sense. But I'm seeing like little by little these raindrops sort of coming out, and it's collecting in a pool, and once all the rain has come out, the pool is going to reflect a bigger picture to you that you'll understand as far as the meaning of this. And so having Taurus there, it can be a sign needing to be patient. Like when we have Hermit and we have Temperance, this is another thing about being patient, about allowing this to take the time that it's going to need to take, and to just tune in and to listen rather than tell this energy what it is, to allow it to speak to you and make sense of it in that way. Feels even like a straining that's happening. Like a colander. Interesting. Okay. Having Hierophant and having Five of Cups on the bottom of the deck, this can be something that you put your faith, your belief into that you felt like let you down. When we have the Hierophant, there is a need for whoever is in the position of the Hierophant, whatever we put in the position of the Hierophant, we appoint to that position. It looks like there is a disappointment that's happening. Hierophant to Five of Cups, because Five of Cups is the disappointment, but then the Hierophant is what you appoint. And so there can be a disappointing, which means that you are going to, like, I mean that in the sense of, yes, you can be feeling disappointed, but this also means that you can disappoint something from a position that you had previously appointed it. So with the Hierophant, it can be something that you gave authority to, something that you put your faith in before, something that you put your belief in before, something that you could have even like bowed at the feet of, because that can be the thing with the Hierophant as well. It can be something that we sort of devote ourselves to. But then going through this disappointment, which is going to be, it's like when you're disappointing the energy from something, it's that energy being in the liminal space of you haven't sort of, if you give something power and you're taking the power back from it, but it hasn't like come all the way back to you yet, it's sort of in this in-between space. And that's what I'm seeing the Seven of Cups be. And as this is happening, it feels like you're learning about your values. I know we talk about values all the time with the Six of Pentacles, but it's so important because when values are involved, values are so important because they are directly connected with your self-worth, with your self-esteem, with your self-respect, with your needs. And so what can be happening here is that there can be a bit of a confusion, a bit of a reevaluation when it comes to your values that maybe doesn't totally make sense yet. with 7 of Cups above 6 of Pentacles. So there can be a questioning of the right move to make here as far as where you stand and what you feel like is connected genuinely with you and what you're feeling. Hi-yo. Just like a quick way that this can be with the Hierophant and the 5 of Cups. This can be like somebody coming through and being like, listen to me, I got all of the answers, or this is going to solve your problem. And then you like put all of your, you like give that the authority, and then it doesn't come through for you in a way where you're like, my values actually don't align with this thing. My values are other, but you may not have known before. And this is meant to be a clarifying process for you. With values too, it means that you feel like what you give something to is a worthy investment. When something is not aligned with your values, you put that time in, you put that energy in, and then you feel like that was not an equal use. Like I didn't get back what I needed from it. It's like an investment that doesn't pan out. And keep in mind too, the Hierophant doesn't have to be, I mean, it doesn't have to be a person. It can be a situation like a growing up, one of your parents told you that the most important thing was to be in a position of power, no matter what you had to do to gain that power, and that then you'd have influence, and then just you'd have the power, okay? So then you're doing all of these things, and then you finally step into a position of power or a position of authority because of this advice that you've given authority to, and can be something that's been passed down the line. And then you get there and you're like, this isn't all it's chalked up to be, and you realize that the advice, the source where you got that advice from, that doesn't align with your values. And that's why that person may be in a place where they believe that power is the most important thing. And then you get into that position and you're like, what am I going to do with this? Like, this isn't what I wanted, or this doesn't feel fulfilling, or this doesn't feel empowering to me. And I did all of this work. I put in all of this energy to gain that. And now I'm in this position. And what does it mean to me? Is like, how much worth does that hold for you? But when we have the Hierophant, it can be that somebody that we believed was giving us good advice, somebody that we believed was like an authority on a matter or on a subject, is telling you something. And so it's about, again, what you appoint to that position of power within your life. And then the things that we do because we feel like that must be aligned. And then this is a time where you can be actually pulling that apart because you're realizing that it doesn't. And that's where this disappointment comes from with the 5 of Cups. And then you can be like, I spent all of my time giving this thing power and authority, and like recognizing that it doesn't fully equate for you. And then being in a period of like, what does then? And you can feel kind of lost when this happens. And so there's going to be a need to sort of sort things out to make sense of what your values truly are and what you are aligning with. I want to say this again. Hierophant can be somebody that is in a position that you perceive as being an authority, that you give power to, and there can be, I mean, I don't know if it's like totally accurate to be calling it advice. It's like whatever the Hierophant is saying in that position, and this is somebody that's seen, they can be in a leadership role or in some type of position of power, of authority, something like that, where people generally listen to what this person says, or even like a parent, like as a child, you would listen to a parent or a guardian, or like an adult or a teacher. It's gonna be something like that where there's like a power play sort of within that when we have the Hierophant there. and like what you believe based off of what you give authority to and what you deem as being valid, what you deem as being legitimate, the truth. And so when you see somebody that you believe, when we have the Hierophant, this is somebody that they're supposed to have commendable, trustworthy values, and then something happens that is telling you otherwise as far as your personal storyline, and now is this moment of this happening, you're sort of left with, what wasn't I seeing? Like, why did I give that power? Like, why didn't I see otherwise? And this can be a moment where there's essentially an awakening that's happening, but it can be one that feels painful. It can be one that feels confusing. It can be one that feels upsetting. Nonetheless, this is something that is very much going to instill more potently, reveal more potently what your true values are versus what are the false values that you may have taken on that don't belong to you, that don't resonate with you. And so you're going through that process right now of doing exactly that. We have Taurus, we have Virgo, and we have Sagittarius here. So having Seven of Cups and having Six of Pentacles is figuring out that process of, I thought that this was my whole list of values. I'm finding out that like we are not the same. There is like something going on here that has to be worked out that I thought was clear before, and I'm realizing through this experience that I'm having that that's not the case. And so what is it then? What are those values then? What does Six of Pentacles look like to me? And then after that is sorted out, a move can be made. There can be a plan made for you to do something where this feels too like it connects you back with your heart space, maybe in a way that you weren't before. Like maybe even though this can be like not the most pleasant or comfortable experience, at the same time you can feel like it's waking you up a bit and that feeling important. So you can be making heart-based choices and heart-based moves here that are based in truth. And having this energy too with the Hierophant and with Temperance, give this time to make sense to you. You don't need to rush through this and immediately rush to come to conclusions that are just these half-baked ideas. You want to allow yourself to really sit with this when we have Hermit and Temperance, to figure this out, to understand how you're feeling, like all the thoughts that are coming up, like just all of it. You want to give it time. Give it time to be with this. So you go from Five of Cups, which is that I had expectations, I had hopes, I invested in that, and I was let down. All the way to we end with 10 of Cups over here. So what this means is that you have to go through this whole process to then get to your 10 of Cups. And your 10 of Cups is going to be feeling that sense of connection. The 10 of Cups will be the opposite of that 5 of Cups, where 5 of Cups is that like the spilled milk. 10 of Cups will be all of the cups being full, and that experience, and that being a lasting thing for you. Something clicks, something makes sense, and you being in the process of figuring that out. But this is a process here. Having the Knight of Pentacles, it's going to be a process. We have Temperance, it's going to be a process. We have Hermit, it's going to be a process. Like this is stuff that takes time to cultivate within your life. Like you're very much on track, on the path to realizing your 10 of Cups. And also too, it's something that takes adjusting. It's something that takes tweaking. It's something that takes having an experience like this to redirect you, to actually get you going where you need to go. So that thing about this is what I'm giving power to, and then feeling let down because that actually was some janky advice as far as my storyline and my values are concerned. It helps put you on track to actually give yourself the advice that you need and to understand your divine wisdom and to give that authority back to yourself and to trust yourself and to believe in yourself. And your ability to guide yourself as well through honest self-reflection and through learning and through... Taurus is going to bring up stuff about your values, what you give worth to. We have Virgo here, which is going to point out what may not be aligned with that. So it's going to be the problem solving. And then Temperance is going to be the time as well to problem solve too. As we start with a fixed energy that's now being checked, and then the mutable energy comes through and says, how do we problem solve? How do we change? What needs to be changed? But also too, when we have the Hierophant, because that's fixed energy, it can be stuff that's really difficult to let go of just because that's what we're comfortable with. That's what we're used to. That's how we've been doing things. And even though you're coming to a point now where something hasn't worked out and so it makes you rethink stuff, it's going to be a process. It's not immediately like everything falls into place and then there's that absolute clarity. Not necessarily. I mean, for some of you, sure, that can be this situation. But for others of you, this can be something that takes a little bit more time. And there's no issue with the time that it takes unless you're making it an issue. Like, there's nothing wrong with it taking a day or taking 5 days or taking 3 years to come to this place of the 10 of Cups. But it's really important that this is happening now, because having this take place, it allows you to step in the right direction by realizing where something was maybe the wrong direction for you to be stepping in. There can also be some trust issues that you're dealing with too, because when we have that Hierophant, it's kind of that thing that we believe like we're supposed to be giving that power. Like we've been told or we've been influenced in some way. And then to have that not live up to what we believe it should be. To look at something and feel like there is a lack of whatever we believe that to be, a position of, and to be emanating that energy. And then to let us down. There can be stuff going on where it's like, why did I trust that? So there can be a lot of that's going on here too, where there's a checking in. Like, how was I led in that direction? Why was I giving that power? Especially now, because it feels like you see that something was not, like something was going on that you weren't necessarily seeing before, or weren't necessarily aware of before. So now when you have this going on, it's showing you stuff that you weren't aware of before. And through that happening, yeah, it can just be a process of leaving you questioning how you are appointing things authority within your life, ultimately. And what you're believing in, and what you're believing in. And then figuring out brick by brick how to build something that feels like the 10 of Cups to you. How to build something that feels sustainable, that feels joyful, where there's that sense of peace, where there is that sense of expectations being met even, or allowing things to be. And being in the process right now of figuring that out. The keys that I'm seeing here to figure this out, like what's standing out to me most of all, 7 of Cups and 6 of Pentacles, and then Temperance and 10 of Cups. These cards feel like the main cards within the spread, where 7 of Cups is going to be you processing, you figuring out what your true 6 of Pentacles is, like how that aligns with you, And Six of Pentacles comes back to your values, what you feel like is fair, the proper distribution of things. So you figuring out what that is. Because you can look at the Hierophant and say, like, you were supposed to tell me what that was and you didn't, and now I have to figure it out myself. So it's all coming back to this place of disappointing that energy and bringing it back to you. And then what's ultimately going to happen is that when you connect with your values, and then you're making moves in your life that are aligned with your values, that is what breeds your Ten of Cups. That is what nurtures, that is what supports joy and fulfillment and connection and peace, those things within your life. Feeling in tune, feeling like things are right, that's what it's going to cultivate within your life. That's why the Six of Pentacles is so important. And that's why the Pentacles and the Cups are connected with one another. Because it has to do with the actions that we take, our patterns and our habits, and how that cultivates joy or the lack of that within our lives. And you being in the process of figuring that out. And recognizing that it is a process too. Sometimes we are led astray. Sometimes we feel out of touch with ourselves, so we allow something else to tell us what it is. And all of this is that process of figuring out what your true values are. And then once you figure out what your true values are, living in alignment with that, and then how your life feels because of this. All right, my friends, we're going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.